So I mentioned that we're going to develop a new definition and we're going to look at gradient patterns over kind of a larger system. So first, we need to develop a dynamic pattern. All right, so what I'd like you to do is take that rectangle or square that you made and just make a copy of it on the other side. And if you need to, you can turn all these off if it bothers you, but I'm just going to leave them on, I guess. And I'm going to copy and paste the square reference, and I'm just going to move it down here. But I need to replace that with my new curve, so I'll right-click that and say Set One Curve, and select this one. Okay, I made a copy of the square, and then I made a copy of the square's reference, and then I replaced the square with the new square. I know. We do a lot of quadrilaterals in this class. All right. So without further ado, here we go. We're going to develop a really, really quick dynamic definition. Like super, mega, ultra simple. So first off, what I'm going to do is subdivide this surface. So I'm going to go and use my domain subdivision because I just want to chop it up. You know, whatever size or shape it is, I'll just chop it up. So divide domain squared I'll use.
Are you doing the Holy Trinity right now?
Yeah, I'm doing the Trinity. Yeah. So, yeah, well,
You said yeah, right?
almost.
That's true, you say.
Almost extra credit, but no. All right, so surface, utility, and isotrim, remember that? This is the very special triangle we build all the time. And, you know, I'm not going to, because this is just purely, you know, we're just studying something that's totally abstract. I don't really care how many subdivisions there are, so 10 and 10 as a default is fine. You guys don't have to worry about sliders. It starts off at 10 and 10. See that? 10. So, whatever. That's fine for us. Okay. From there, though, rather than keeping all 100 of these subdivisions exactly the same size, which would be boring because they're all going to render the same value, I'm going to change it so that I can change the domain dynamically to have some small, some large, or you could use scale. You could build it however you want. The way I'm going to do it is with domain. So I'm going to go to Math, Domain, and I'm going to construct domain squared. And then I need to copy subsurf. And then I need to just string these two subsurfs together and then plug this domain up there. It's going to give you an error for a little bit, but I'll pull these to the side here a little bit. All right. So with this domain, we need to do two things. We need to provide the domain sliders. That's easy, or numbers, but I'm going to pull this down here because I'm going to need some room. And then you just need to right-click and reparameterize. You're not going to see anything different yet. You guys need a minute?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it sounds like you don't really. Okay. So just a quick recap. Constructing domain squared, you need to use percentage sliders if we reparameterize it, or magnitude sliders if it's not reparameterized. But percentage sliders in this case are probably going to be best. So what I'm going to do is say 0 is less than 1.00. And you can make 4 copies of them for now, but we're going to replace some of them. So remember, if you move your max values up, what you're going to get after you turn this other stuff off, right, you're going to get something that looks kind of like this. You're going to be able to max it out on either side, you know, up or down, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. However, right now, these are all the same size still. What can I do differently to make it more dynamic? No, not yet. I can create a range of percentage values for each of these particular items to be modified. Does that make any sense? So this is actually probably a good side point I need to make now, and I didn't quite explain it before. Because remember how we did that facade exercise with the triangulated panels and stuff? But mine, I had some smaller and some larger.
Yeah, got it.
Well, we're going to do that now. While I give, I need you all to pay very close attention to this.
Yes, yes.
Every single one of you.
Continue.
Eyes up front. Okay. So, I need you guys to pay close attention. Okay. So, while I give this thing one value, that one value is going to repeat all the times that it needs it for every single one of these surfaces that I've fed the subdivide surface, right? So it's just going to take all of those 4 numbers and apply it to every single one of them. If I take one of these away, say this one, and I give it numerous values, you might think that because there's only one plugged in to the other 3, that that's going to cause a problem. It won't. Because if I plug in 100 numbers here on Umax, that's fine because these are just going to get recycled 100 times. Okay? Is that making sense? So let's do that. You guys can go back to side chatter if you need to. I know you want to. Okay, so I'm going to build a range under set, sequence, and range. Now, range is going to ask me for 2 things. It's going to ask me for the domain within which to build that range. Okay? And then it's also going to ask me for the number of steps to create. Now remember, steps means gaps in between 2 numbers. So if I make 1 step, I'm getting 2 numbers. If I make 2 steps, I'm getting 3 numbers. So the number I actually want to plug in there, if I want 100 numbers, or particularly, right? I want exactly as many subdivisions as this is creating. I could put in the number 100 or 99 in this case, but that's not what I want to do. I want to measure the length of that list in case I change it. Does that make sense? By now, I'm taking a sidebar here. By now, when I say that, you should understand why. Do you guys understand why? Okay, let's finish this thought and then I'll illustrate to you why. Okay, and I think you'll really get it when I show you. All right, so let's say I just told you, right, we need technically 99 steps. You guys get that, right? Yeah. Okay, so we need 99 steps, which is going to create 100 numbers. So I'm going to build a param and plug that into n. Then I'm going to create my domain. So I'm going to go to math, domain, construct domain. And you could use static numbers here if you want, or you could use a slider. In my case, I'm going to use a slider. And I'm going to go from 0 to 1.00. Right, because these are percentages. So my maximum is going to be 1.00, and my minimum is going to be 0, or slightly above 0. You probably want to pull it up a little. And then I'll plug that domain into the D input, and then plug my range into U. That's what you'll get. So it looks subtle, and it almost looks like it's not doing what you want as a straight gradient across the whole thing, but it is. You'll notice that this one is really, really thin, and this one is marginally thicker, and it just very, very slightly increases across the whole pattern. Do any of you have questions? Do you need a moment to catch up? Cool. So that means I'm moving at the right pace. Awesome. Cool. So let's continue on. Right. We have these subdivisions. I need to show you what the caution was that I mentioned a moment ago. Okay. So what happens if this static number gets awry or goes awry, right? We need to simulate what would happen if something went wrong. So this pattern right now is beautiful. It's all, you know, nice and clean and you know, trimmed up so that it's got just the right number of pieces. If I create sliders from 0 to say 20, you guys don't have to do this. Actually, in fact, don't do this. What I'd like you to do is just pay attention. So sliders from 0 to 20, copy paste. I'm just going to move them up to some numbers and plug them into U and to V. That's what I get. Well, yeah, I mean, it looks fine, but what is all this? Right. Yeah, because I have a static number 99, it created 99 values to plug into it, and all the rest of values outside of whatever this is creating, we have 91 of them. It's creating an extra 9 values in that top right corner. And it just gets worse and worse and worse the more that I, you know, increase that. So it gets really intense. So that's why we need to do this instead. And let's do that together. Now I want you to follow along with me. Okay. So in order to correct that problem and make it more intelligent, right? We talk about making intelligent definitions. We need to go to set, list length. Let me pull all this aside so it is a little bit more clear for you. So this is going to read the list length, right? A value of 49. And I still could plug that in, but it's not going to be correct. Why isn't it correct? Because it's creating 49 steps, which means I have 50 numbers, but I really want 49 numbers. So I need to subtract 1 from this list. And there are 2 ways of doing that. The easiest way is to right-click it and go to expression and say x minus 1. So I'll show you that, but that's not the way I'm going to build it. X minus 1. You just commit that change and it'll be fine. So I commit that and you'll see that that goes away. It's the same color rendering as everything else. That's fine. All's well and good. But the way I'm going to do it so that you can remember I did it is I'm going to add in under math, operators, and subtraction. I'm going to say minus 1. I'm going to take my list length minus 1, and I'm going to plug that in instead. Okay? Does that make sense? Thank you. I got 1 yes. That's a success.
So it's just saying whatever the grid is, it's just
We just need to
minus
subtract
that.
it.
Yep.
Oh, because we have 100 and then we have 99 because it's a.
Yep. And then I changed that 100, but the 99 didn't change.
Oh,
Just say let's-
So now it will. Now, no matter how many subdivisions I give it, you won't see any of that problem in the top right corner. Okay. Now, feel free to put sliders on there again if you want, but you definitely need to have this minus 1 if you do that. Okay? Let me see how we're doing on time for this video. Ooh, I should stop. I'm running a little long. So I'm going to stop this here, and then we're going to focus on the actual gradient.